And hello everyone, I hope you're doing great. Today we are going to take a look at the RTX 4070 Super Gaming X Slim White from MSI. Yeah, that's a mouthful. Let's go. And so before going any further, this video is not a complete review of the 4070 Super. I have done that on my main channel. If you are interested in the benchmarks, they are available in a dedicated video that is linked in the description, and also for the members of my Ko-fi page if you want an offline version. But today we are going to look at the 4070 Super Slim from MSI and compare it to the Founders Edition with thermals, noise, performance, overclocking and undervolting. And I am pretty happy that MSI landed me this card because I was quite curious to see what the Slim range was about, since it's the first one I could get my hands on. So yeah, the Slim range of cards from MSI came out a bit after the original release of the RTX 40 cards, and I guess the goal for MSI here, as the name suggests, is to be a bit slimmer. I guess, shocking, I know. But yeah, one of the big issues we got with GPUs this generation is that they have increased a lot in size and perhaps a bit too much, while most cards probably don't need to be that big either, which can be a problem just to fit the card in most cases, and also the weight of the card have increased quite a bit, which can be a problem with some PCB cracking with some manufacturers and so on, as we have heard lately. So adding a chip GPU support for your card most of the time is not a bad idea nowadays. But yeah, while big cards have their issues, it's true that they often end up being fairly silent and well cooled as well, and that's never a bad thing. But I still feel like a better middle ground could have been found, which may be what this slim line of cards from MSI try to address. Anyway, for this 4070 Super Slim here, MSI chose to do a fairly long card with 30.1 cm in length, 12.5 in width and 4.6 cm thick. And as far as the size goes, the Founders Edition is still a more compact card with 24 cm in length, 11.5 width and 4.2 thickness. So yeah, it may be slimmer than some other cards, but it's still a pretty long card that won't fit in every case. And as far as weight goes, the Slim is 970 grams compared to 1 kg 23 for the Founders Edition, so the Slim is actually pretty light. Design-wise, it's a classic heatsink with a copper plate and heat pipes, 3 Torx 5 fans from MSI with a flow-through design, with a hole in the backplate to dissipate the heat towards the top of the case. And I kind of like the look of this card, white color with silver accents that reflect the light a little. I think it's pleasing to the eye, and a couple of friends that came by while I was testing the card also found it to be rather nice looking, so I guess good job on MSI's hand here. If I had one complaint to make, it would be on the transparent notches that get no RGB, which is a bit of a shame. It was a perfect place to add some more here. The only RGB you will get on this card is around the MSI logo on the edge of the card, so there is some RGB, but it's a pretty light touch, and I would have liked a little more actually. If you are going to put some RGB on the card, you may as well go full out, because those that like RGB will enjoy it, and those that don't can always turn part of it, if not all of it, off. And you get a metal backplate, no RGB on it as well, and obviously you won't have this big MSI label as you can see here. That's just because it's a test card from MSI France that they lent to reviewers. The backplate is pretty clean, but still I don't really like the barcode under the chip. I would rather have the stickers on the edge under the card, where they won't be seen like some other brands do. And for the display's output, it's the usual 3 DisplayPorts 1.4a and 1 HDMI 2.1a. And for the power connector, you get the now infamous 12V PWR, which will be on every RTX 40 Super, no 8-pin connectors like you will get on some 4070s. Bundle-wise, you also get a GPU bracket. I don't really like those type of GPU support. It's nice that it's in the bundle, but I think a simple little support like this one would do the job just as well, and it's kind of cheap to get one on Amazon, because I think the big GPU brackets are kind of annoying to install and most people will just leave it in the box. Nice little touch from MSI too, the 16 to 8-pin adapter provided is in white. That's the kind of small attention to details that we like to see here. So, from a purely aesthetic point of view, compared to the 4070 Super Founders Edition, that's totally black. It's clearly a different style, I like both. But for a right PC, yeah, the Slim is obviously a much better choice here. Cooling wise now, from our review we could see that the heatsink on the Founders Edition did the job, even if it was noisier than the 4070 or 4060 Ti Founders Edition, which use the same design. That's obviously due to the fact that the 4070 Super used more power than the other two cards, but it was still a pretty decently quiet and well-cooled card. But if we compare it to the Slim here, we can see that after a 20-minute stress test in a room at 23°C, the MSI card has a small advantage temperature-wise, since it's 3 degrees cooler for the GPU, 5 for the hotspot, and memory junction is 2 degrees cooler than the Founders Edition. So the card is well cooled. That's great, but what about the noise level? Well, as we can see here, in gaming loads, the MSI card is also really quiet, with 41.2 dBA, which puts it on par with the 70 Ti Super Phoenix from Gainward, which was also a very quiet card. So, the Slim is both quieter and better cooled than the Founders Edition. All in all, I can't really complain here. Good job on MSI's hand for this card. And I also did a couple of benchmarks comparing the Slim and the Founders Edition, and it's interesting to note that despite a higher GPU frequency of 165 MHz for the Slim, the performance is almost identical. And even if the Slim seemed to be a bit better, mostly in Assassin's Creed Mirage, in Avatar and Cyberpunk, it's more margin of error level of difference, and that's most likely because of the power limits, given that on average the Founders Edition consumes 198 watts compared to 211 watts for the Slim, and just a tiny 60 MHz difference on average for GPU frequency in games, which is pretty far from the 165 MHz we had on paper, but it kinda makes sense. We know that AED 104 is more bandwidth starved than anything else. But let's take a look at overclocking and undervolting. Power limit for the Slim is locked at 106%, which is less than the Founders Edition that can get up to 109%. But since the Slim is eating a bit more power at stock, it ends up being kind of the same. And overclock-wise, with 200 MHz more on the core and 400 on the VRAM, we see a 5% performance gain, which, just like for the Founders Edition, brings it very close to the performance of the old 4070 Ti, which is cool, but nothing amazing. But yeah, as far as overclocking goes, nowadays we don't get much room to play with anyway. Undervolting wise, we find the usual behavior of the RTX 40 series. By lowering the power limit to 90% while we keep the overclocking, we end up slightly above stock performance while consuming slightly less power, and at 80% power limit we get stock level performance while needing 40 less watts. So as usual, you get a pretty good headroom to get even better power efficiency, which is more interesting than plain overclocking here to me. So yeah, cooling and performance-wise, this MSI Slim board does the job, and it's a very good RTX 4070 Super model. And as usual, the only issue we get with this card is the price, because here in France, the card can be found at around 760 euros at the cheapest stores, and that's at least 100 euros more than the Founders Edition, or also less premium models, so it's a 15% premium, which is quite a lot. Is it worth it though? From a pure price to performance ratio, clearly not. The Founders Edition offers identical performances, and even if cooling wise it's not as good, it's far from being bad. So if we take a look at the cost per frame, we obviously lose a lot of value, but it's always kind of the issue with those type of higher end cards. So yeah, if you like the card's looks and can accept the higher price, it's a solid choice for a white card, and we know that white cards are more expensive than the black ones most of the time, just like most other white PC parts, so not much surprise here. And I guess that's it for the 4070 Super Slim. If you enjoyed this video and you want to help the channel, well, you can do the usual YouTube stuff, and also there is a Ko-fi page if you want to support the channel directly. And thanks to all my supporters, it's really helping me a lot. So see you in the next one, and take care of yourself. Bye bye.